There was a time when a full-time job with a good company would be a long-term successful experience. We've seen how that has changed in recent decades. An employee's service is no longer valued. People seem to be pushed aside when no longer needed, yet executives get massive bonuses every year and are all smiles throughout layoff periods. So why are we told that everything is awesome? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I'm going to take you across the US, show you a handful of different companies that are laying people off. All right, we're not being told about this. This is being covered up by the statistics and the fake job numbers, and I will show you exactly how this is happening. You have to stay with me all the way into the end where I will explain that, but I just want to show you all these different examples. Now, what you will note from this is that it's not one sector, it's not one company. We are seeing this widespread, and the first example that I have for you is Microsoft. Microsoft on Thursday started the process of laying off thousands of employees, cuts that fall largely on the technology giant's sales force. Okay, now what I want to show you here is that technology companies, you're looking at them especially over the last year, but we'll say since March of 2009, they have been performing incredibly well. You've seen that. We've covered it here. You've seen the news, the FANG stocks and everything else. Yet, a lot of these companies are laying people off. One of the things you'll note is that it might employ, let's say, 10,000 people and it fires 1,000 people, or perhaps an example of 100 people, and you would say percentage-wise it's not a big deal, so therefore, this is nothing to worry about. But I'm trying to highlight the fact that when you have a supposedly booming economy, supposedly booming jobs numbers, employment's looking great, stocks are rising, and yet you're laying people off. What's going on? What's the real issue here? Okay, so I'll take you through here. Once again, you might have a company that has a very large amount of employees and they lay off a small percentage of people, but I'm just trying to highlight the fact that it's all in different sectors, okay? And despite the fact that you'll see a bunch of tech here, that's the one sector right now that should not be laying anybody off. They have more money. They're sitting on cash piles like it's nothing. CNN. So you've seen recently they have been able to basically gain more attention, right? More viewership because of what's happened since, let's say, 2016, and yet laying people off. Boeing, over the years, has been doing some layoffs as well. In this case here, they're showing 200 jobs at one particular plant. A few years ago, they had some more layoffs there. This here, Zappos, an Amazon-owned footwear company, laying off about 30 people, small handful. Amazon self-publishing service, CreateSpace, that's actually where I published my book through. They're laying off workers in its editing and marketing design division. All right, Amazon plans the layoffs at Quidsy unit after losses, 263 people. Amazon is cutting hundreds of employees to shift resources to its fast-growing businesses. So the actual parent company, Amazon, here is actually laying off people themselves at the same time when they have been expanding quite a bit. They've been increasing the amount of robots that they're using, but they're also increasing the amount of human workers as well. That's for sure. But here you can see that it's not just in one direction. They are, in fact, laying people off as well. Barnes & Noble cut staff after a dismal holiday season. I think they're really competing with Amazon, and that's become a very big problem for Barnes & Noble. They do have an online component, but I don't think that it is necessarily up to snuff when compared to Amazon. They're simply losing out, and they have to be very quick about this because brick and mortar is not necessarily the future. And, whether we like it or not, that's simply the way it's going. And unfortunately, retail space is extremely expensive. Commercial real estate is, something that might be not exactly the future, let's say. Snapchat's parent company laid off 18 employees this week amid plans to slow hiring in 2018. Now, they're suggesting in this particular article 18 people. That's very small. The company has about 2,600 people. However, Snapchat's stock is doing terribly. It's not performing well at all. They're burning money. They've been laying off people as a whole. I've covered it before here, but essentially what we're seeing is a company that were projected to do so well. They do have a lot of people up on their service, but unfortunately, they're not bringing the money in. ESPN is preparing itself for another round of layoffs. More people here, 150 in this case. There's many reasons why this could be happening. All I got to say is, news and media corporations are definitely suffering at this time. Again, here, ESPN talking about the same thing. And in this one here, it's basically getting to the same issue. Last one, okay? SeaWorld, declining attendance, cutting 350 positions. Okay, so you've seen this, all different ends of the earth here that we're talking about. You're seeing everything from media to tech to SeaWorld, attractions. What's up? What's the real deal? I'm looking at the employment rate, or unemployment rate, I should say. And according to the Federal Reserve, we are at full employment in the United States. All right. So how is this possible? Well, one very important thing. The conventional full-time job is disappearing. There was some research that was done at Princeton University from 2005 to 2015, so it's a little outdated, but stay with me. The proportion of Americans workers engaged in what they refer to as alternative work jumped from 10% to 15%, 15.8% in this case. Alternative work is characterized by temporary or unsteady, such as work as an independent contractor or through a temporary help agency. There's a chart down below, and needless to say, it's heading in the upward direction. More and more people are forced onto this type of work. It's not as if they're choosing to be temporary workers. They simply can't get full-time work. Sure, some may want to be temporary, that's for sure, but others, they don't want that. And there's a lot of percentage, I would say, that are in that camp. Now, more connected with that, the U.S. economy created 116,000 new temporary office jobs over the past year. It's an increase of 3.9%. These jobs offer employers flexibility with their headcount, but come at a steep cost of stability for workers. The increase in temp jobs is one of the reasons the business service industry created more than 500,000 jobs, more than any other industry. All right. So the service industry is basically hiring a lot of temp workers, people handing out flyers, people working in retail, whatever they need. Unfortunately, they're not glamorous jobs. They're not jobs that are consistent. They are not able to get benefits that they need. Everything. They don't want that in most cases, okay? People want full-time hours. They want to be able to pay their bills. So what do? Well, they get 2 jobs. They get 3 jobs. They get a lot of temp work. Maybe they're Uber drivers. Maybe they're Uber Eats deliveries. There's a lot of these different gigs that are coming up, and they're great for some people. But unfortunately, from what I've found, a lot of people don't want that, right? So we are getting to this scenario where more and more people are in a position that they can't afford. So let's think about this for a moment here. You have somebody who's working, let's be reasonable, let's say 2 jobs, 2 temp jobs, right? According to the job statistics, that's the way that they make it seem, is that's 2 people with jobs. Because they don't count people, they count jobs. So if it's, let's say, 100,000 new jobs, well, that may only be 50,000 people. And then you see how the numbers start to get a little skewed. What if that person had 3 jobs? What if that person had 4 jobs? There's a lot of people like that. That they have to. How else are they going to pay the bills? So this is what I see a lot. That really, really skews the statistics big time. You're looking at people getting laid off. What are they going to do? If that person got laid off from, let's say, Amazon, what are they going to do? They're going to put their resume in, but bills stack up very quickly. There's a lot of people applying for a lot of jobs out there. And unfortunately, what's going on is that there's so many people applying for the same jobs. So you can get people with, what should be a job that requires no education at all. Suddenly they're saying, I want a person with a bachelor's degree, and it pays $10 an hour. Well, that person feels maybe they're a little overqualified. So what do? Well, they go unemployment insurance. Maybe they get a temporary work thinking that they're going to find a job in a, period of time. It just doesn't work like that. Okay. Now, when we look at areas around the world, you're seeing Canada and the same thing. Same exact situation. It's not just a perception. Temporary work is really growing at a faster pace than permanent positions. The number of temporary workers in Canada hit a record 2 million last year, according to Stats Can. That amount is 13.6% of the workforce. That's 11% back in 1997. We're talking about a big problem here, because a lot of the people in Canada are looking at different industries out there, and oftentimes they have to choose service industries, and these are generally not well-paying jobs. You have a lot of people who have education, a lot of education, and it has simply devalued its worth over the years. It really doesn't count for what it did, even a decade ago. So things have really changed from what I've seen. Perhaps even 2 decades ago, let's say, where a bachelor's degree would have been something that was prominent. You wanted to see that on the resume. That person would have got a great job. Maybe not the best paying job, but it would get them in the door and they can move their way up. And now everybody has a bachelor's degree or higher. And unfortunately, that really has made a bad situation for a lot of people. They need to become more creative. They need to go to school for even longer. Their debt just increases. It's not good. What's happening right now globally is not good. You have, during the financial crisis, 200,000 people in the financial services industry lost their jobs. I believe that might be just in Europe, but don't quote me on that. Either way, a lot of people losing their jobs and unfortunately can't get the job that they want back. So they go for retraining, they go for temporary work, and it's a terrible situation. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. If you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support the channel. I do appreciate it very much. Last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know you'll find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can flip through the books at Amazon. Links are in the description below. Take care.